get more now on that controversial book about President Trump. Today, his lawyers are doing all they can to try and stop it being published, warning his former strategist, Steve Bannon, that he's violated a non-disclosure agreement. The book contains all sorts of claims, but how likely are they to impact the White House in the long term? Well, let's get a view now, live from Las Vegas. We can speak to Rory McShane, who's a media strategist who's worked on a number of Republican campaigns. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us here this evening. It's not unusual, is it, for presidents to fall out with former advisers, but this is on a different scale, isn't it?
You know, I don't think that it is. And I think that the media has a tendency, everything that happens to Trump, they want to blow it into the proportion of this has never happened before. It's so sensational. But you look at the Obama White House, the Bush White House before that, it was not, I mean, these are people of big personalities and strong conviction, and it's not uncommon for falling outs to happen. And it's just happened in the age of Twitter and in the age of the 24-hour news cycle.
OK, but some of the criticism is very personal, if it's to be believed. Steve Bannon is reportedly has said that Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russians was treasonous. I mean, that's serious stuff, isn't it?
Well, there's no doubt that it's serious stuff, but you know, you've seen this barrage of attacks come to the Trump family, you know, ever since Donald first talked about running for office 2 years ago, and I don't think you've seen it blunt his popularity with middle class Americans. So I don't think that, you know, that some insidious attacks from Steve Bannon in a book deal are going to do that to Trump or his family.
So you think that Trump supporters will stick by him, but Steve Bannon has a huge number of supporters as well, doesn't he? Is there a possibility that that Republican base, if you like, of their two groups of supporters will split somehow?
You know, I don't think there is. And I think that Steve Bannon certainly did have a lot of supporters, but I think his supporters believed they were supporters of Steve Bannon because they believed that Steve was kind of the sword and the shield, if you will, for President Trump. They weren't supporters of Steve Bannon apart from Trump. They were supporters of the sword and shield of President Trump. They've seen now that Steve Bannon's loyalty does not lie with President Trump, and I don't see that populist support fracturing from President Trump.
And while Steve Bannon hasn't commented on the reports about what's in this book, he has praised President Trump since those reports came out, called him a great man, hasn't he? But what does it mean, do you think, for his own ambitions then? There's been a lot of talk of him wanting to see his preferred candidates getting Republican nominations, Republican posts. So how is he likely to be able to fulfill his ambitions in future, do you think?
Sure. I mean, I think the real issue that this causes for Steve Bannon is that it shows that disagreements don't stay within the family. And when, you know, a political campaign, especially one for the United States Senate or a governorship, is a monumentous undertaking, and you have to bring in a lot of strong, smart people with various personalities. And by nature, there are going to be disagreements. And I think what Mr. Bannon has done is he's shown that those disagreements won't stay in the family. And I think what that will do is it will hinder his abilities to recruit allies from other organizations as he tries to advance his candidates.
Why do you think the two men fell out?
You know, I think that that's actually a very good question. I think that Mr. Bannon overplayed his hand. I think that, I mean, if you look at Alabama, you know, the president supported Luther Strange, Steve Bannon supported Roy Moore, and he legitimately believed that he knew what was better for the Trump agenda than President Trump. And he took sides against President Trump because he believed that his ideas and his candidates were better for the Trump agenda than President Trump. And I don't think President Trump likes being second guessed, especially second guessed by people who were once on the payroll.
And clearly, President Trump is furious about this. His press secretary, White House spokesperson, has been calling many of the allegations disgusting and laughable. We know that lawyers' letters are flying around all over the place. I mean, he must feel pretty humiliated given some of the charges that are being made here, including the suggestion that he never really wanted the job of president in the first place and was fairly horrified to have won. And also the suggestion that from the author, of the people he talked to, he got the impression that most people felt he wasn't capable of doing the job.
You know, again, I don't think that that's the case, and we've seen this with every kind of Trump media event that's happened so far. You know, every time something breaks in the press, there is always this immediate media circus around Trump must be horrified, Trump must be embarrassed, Trump must be falling back on his heels now. But every time, I think what you've seen is you've seen middle-class Americans rush to his defense, and you know, regular people, some, you know, feel they have family fights, they feel insecurity, they feel all of these things, and I think the more real, I think Trump's strength is, whether he understands it or not, that the fact that he's the genuine article, he's the real deal, he's not scripted, endears him more and more to the American people. It doesn't make him less likable.
OK, Rory McShane, very interesting to get your views tonight. Thank you.